Hi, I'm Nikki Woods, and in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be outlining why it makes great business sense for you to support menopause in the workplace. I'm going to cover what menopause is, the business case for why it makes sense to support menopause, how you can practically support menopause in the workplace, and a little bit of signposting and further help and guidance. And why should you listen to me? Well, I'm a corporate perimenopause and wellbeing educator. I'm also a behaviour change coach for professional women in midlife, covering their fitness, their nutrition, their fat loss, their mindset, their habits, and their menopause. So I hear a lot from women, including in my 1,500 member Facebook group. I'm also a qualified personal trainer, nutritionist, NLP practitioner, and I'm a former HR manager, MCIPD qualified. I've also experienced and overcome my own perimenopause issues. Menopause itself is actually only one day, the day someone hasn't had a period for a year. The average age in the UK is 51, but it can differ quite significantly. Perimenopause is up to 10 years before the day of menopause. It's when hormones are rapidly shifting, and this is where symptoms start to occur. Actually, it's where symptoms can be most severe because often once someone's past menopause and hormones are more stable, symptoms can subside. We then have the post-menopause period, all things being well, at least 30 years. And what that means is that at least 15 years of someone's working life is going to be spent post-menopause. However, I don't want you to make assumptions based on age or perceived gender. You may have someone who is trans in your workforce who still has their ovaries and is experiencing menopause and perimenopause symptoms. Also, 1 to 3% of women will naturally have their menopause under the age of 40, which is premature ovarian insufficiency, and a further percentage of women will have a natural menopause between 40 and 45, which is early menopause. Additionally, at any age, someone can have a surgical menopause, that's a hysterectomy removing their ovaries, or medically induced menopause due to cancer treatment. So looking at the business case, we've got 3 documents that really inform what we're talking about here. The 2017 government report on effects of menopause transition on women's economic participation in the UK, the Fawcett Society 2020 report on menopause in the workplace, and the 2023 CIPD menopause in the workplace employee experience report. And these tell us that 7 million women aged 45 to 60 are in the workplace in the UK, and that women over 50 are the fastest growing workplace demographic. Approximately 80% of those experiencing menopause are therefore in work. But 44% of women say their ability to work has in some way been affected by their symptoms or lack of support for symptoms. In terms of productivity, 14 million working days are lost each year due to menopause. This isn't absence, it's productivity impact. The same research also found that women are conscientious enough that they suspect that they're having some productivity impact, and so they work over in their own time more than those 14 million working days to make up for their perceived impact. And yet 75% of women report feeling uncomfortable talking to their manager about menopause. An estimated 20 to 25% of women have actually considered leaving work due to menopause or lack of support around it. And 1 in 10 women actually have left work due to this. It costs between £20,000 and £35,000 on average to replace a lost employee earning average salary. Plus, you've got that loss of organisational knowledge as well. And when we look at the Employment Tribunal, cases have been steadily rising for several years now. And the first 6 months of 2023 alone saw nearly as many cases as the whole of 2022. The average cost of defending a tribunal claim, win or lose, excluding any compensation that might be awarded, is £8,000. And compensation awards have not been insignificant recently. These 2 cases in 2023, for example. In February 2024, the Equality and Human Rights Commission have issued guidance for employers, reminding them specifically of their responsibilities under the Equality Act and specifically relating to disability discrimination. So what benefits are there for the business in supporting menopause at work? Improve retention and recruitment, organisational reputation and employer brand, lower absence, lower presenteeism, improved morale, better employee relations, fewer disputes, reduced financial burden, increased performance, increased productivity, increased profitability, and it's the right thing to do. The CIPD research from 2023 shows that the workplace support someone receives makes a considerable difference to the impact of symptoms at work. There's approximately a 13% reduction in negative symptoms if someone feels supported by their employer, manager, or colleagues. In terms of symptoms, well, 25% of people will be symptom-free, but 75% will have some symptoms. 50% will have some symptoms, but they're not severe or debilitating. and 25% will have severe and debilitating symptoms. However, even if someone has severe and debilitating symptoms with the right support or right intervention, those symptoms can be alleviated or even disappear. There's almost 50 recognised symptoms, and they span physical, cognitive and emotional. 67% of working women between 40 and 60 with experience of symptoms said those symptoms had a mostly negative impact on them at work. The most common symptoms were psychological, for example, mood disturbances, anxiety, depression, memory loss, panic attacks, loss of confidence, and reduced concentration. 79% said they were less able to concentrate, 68% that they experienced more stress, 49% that they felt less patient, and 46% that they felt less physically able to carry out work tasks. 53% of respondents were able to think of a time when they were unable to go into work due to menopause symptoms. And of those, the highest proportion, 18%, said they didn't tell their manager anything about menopausal symptoms, and 11% only mentioned symptoms and not menopause. And this has increased, not decreased, since the last survey in 2019, and shows there's still a huge stigma around menopause. Of those 53% who were unable to go to work, it is, of course, plausible that many of them may have been able to work from home, they just couldn't go to work. For example, if someone was having extreme hot flushes or extremely heavy bleeding, they could probably work from home, they just wouldn't potentially be able to go sit in long meetings. As I said before, there is a 13% reduction in negative impact of symptoms if the person feels supported by the employer, manager and colleagues, but only a quarter of respondents said their organisation has a menopause policy or other support. Organisations that do have support were most likely to have written policies and menopause support networks. Respondents said that flexible working and ability to control temperature are the most helpful measures, but only 26% and 25% respectively said their organisation offers those. And 67% said they feel more organisations supporting home and hybrid working will make dealing with menopause symptoms easier. There are, however, also some EDI considerations. More than a quarter of all women say the menopause has had a negative impact on their career progression, but 36% of women with a disability or a long-term health condition say that their symptoms have had a quite or very negative impact on their career progression, compared with 24% who didn't have disability or long-term health condition. And 38% of women who identify as an ethnic minority say their symptoms had a quite or very negative impact on their career progression, compared with 25% of white women. Also, if we look at those who have left work due to lack of support in relation to menopause symptoms, those with no disability or long-term health condition, 5% of those left work, but 8% with a disability or long-term health condition left work. Additionally, if we look at those who have considered leaving work due to lack of support, it's 14% of those with no disability or long-term health condition, but 24% of those with a disability or long-term health condition. And overall, more than 10% of people feel discriminated against because of their menopause symptoms. The CIPD does make some specific recommendations around menopause. Organisations can better support their employees by opening up the culture, developing a supportive framework, creating a strong and supportive culture around flexible working, managing health and absence in a fair and flexible way, and educating and training line managers. My recommendations for businesses are to have clear policy guidance documents that are easily accessible to all, and consider other policy through a menopause lens to ensure that people in menopause aren't disproportionately affected. To raise awareness through training for all staff, male, female, senior, junior, young and old, and consider menopause champions. To include menopause in health and wellness campaigns, to consider reasonable adjustments, be that technology, equipment, clothing, working patterns, acknowledge all women will experience menopause in a unique way, and know where to signpost for further help, for example, GP, occupational health and menopause organisations. In terms of best practice for managers, talk openly about menopause within the workplace, encourage colleagues to speak openly about menopause. For example, I always recommend when I do manager training that they go back, tell their colleagues they've had this training, talk about it in team meetings. It's important to understand that not everyone will experience symptoms, so don't assume based on someone's age. Avoid making assumptions or offering medical advice. Ask supportive questions, be discreet, sensitive, and respect confidentiality. Be open-minded and flexible in focusing on reasonable solutions, and don't feel like you have to be a menopause expert, but do, of course, request menopause training. And these are a couple of quotes from the CIPD 2023 research, where you can see the very positive difference that training and awareness sessions within a business brought. In terms of support and education options, I offer a menopause awareness session that's suitable for everyone, formal manager training, a specific session just for men, other specific topic sessions, such as how people can use nutrition, fitness and well-being to improve their all-round health and reduce menopause symptoms, a package where you get a year of MenoCafes, I can be a guest speaker at your employee menopause group, a panel speaker for discussion events, a guest speaker at your away day, and also offer individual coaching support for employees. So if you've taken away from this session that you do feel you need to do something more proactively to support and educate around menopause in the workplace, please get in contact and we can see how I can help you. Thank you for your time.